When reading off the address, always make sure you validate it. If you get green checks, continue on to the email. If you get red X's, ask the customer to spell out the physical address and check for commas or periods. If you still have red X's, end the call politely. P.O. boxes cannot be accepted. If the customer has a P.O. box, ask them for the physical address. If the customer is unwilling to provide you with the physical address, end the call politely. Always verify the customer's email address. If they do not use email, ask the customer if they have a friend or relative's email that they could be contacted on. If the customer cannot provide you with a valid email address, end the call politely. Ask the customer if they own or rent their home. If they do own their home, ask the customer if it is a single family, multifamily, apartment, duplex, or mobile home. If the customer resides with a family member or in a parent's home, mark them down as other. Ask the customer if their credit rating is excellent, good, fair, or poor. If the customer says they do not have credit, mark the credit down as poor. Ask the customer who they have for insurance. If they do not know who they have, ask the customer if the provider is an independent agent or agency. If it is an independent agent or agency, select Progressive. If it is not an independent agent or agency, end the call politely. If the customer names off a company that is not on the list, select Progressive. Lastly, if the customer does not have insurance, we cannot provide them with this service. Ask the customer when their policy expires. If the customer does not know when the policy expires, ask them to take their best guess as to which season it would be expiring in. If the customer's policy is expired, we are unable to provide them with this service. Ask the customer when they started their policy with the insurance company. If the customer knows the year, but not the month in which they started, select January of the year given. When asking the customer what the year, make, and model of the primary vehicle they drive is, always be as specific as possible. For example, if the customer tells us a 2002 Chevy Silverado 1500, narrow it down. The first thing we would ask is if it is a C1500 or a K1500, and if it is an HD or a basic. Now that we have the model narrowed down, it's time to move on to the submodel. In this case, we would ask the customer if it is an extended cab, a crew cab, or a basic pickup. After we narrow down the body type, it's time to move on to liter size. In this case, we would ask the customer if it is a 4.3, a 4.8, or a 5.3. If the vehicle gets more specific than liter size, pick the first option. In the case of the customer not knowing what the engine type, body type, or submodel is, pick the first available option. Vehicles that we are unable to provide this service for would include RVs, campers, boats, motorcycles, commercial vehicles, or vehicles that are older than 1981. In the case of the customer wanting insurance quotes on one of those types of vehicles, inform them that we cannot provide them with that service. However, when the insurance companies call, they could certainly discuss those options with them and try and take down a vehicle that we do have on our list. Ask the customer if they keep the vehicle in a garage, carport, in the street, or in the driveway. If the customer does keep the vehicle in the driveway, mark it down as no cover. When going over the coverage level with the customer, the first number reflects the amount of bodily injury coverage that the insurance company would be paying out towards one person in an accident. The second number reflects the amount of bodily injury coverage that the insurance company would be paying out towards the entire accident. The deductible would be the amount of money that the customer would pay out in the case of an accident. The most common deductible is $500. If the customer has a request to get quotes for liability, put down state minimum with no coverage for a deductible. Ask the customer if they have a secondary vehicle. Only if the vehicle is on the policy are you going to put down a secondary vehicle. If the customer does not have a secondary vehicle, move on to the date of birth question. Ask the customer to please verify their date of birth with you. If you already have a date of birth down, double check to make sure it's accurate. If the customer is under 18 years of age, we are unable to provide them with this service. Ask the customer what their highest level of education is: high school, some college, or college degree. If the customer has a college degree, ask them if they have their associate's, bachelor's, master's, or doctorate. If the customer has a GED, select high school. Ask the customer what their current occupation is. If the customer's occupation is not on the list, select Other. If you cannot find the occupation within 10 seconds of looking for it, wait until the end of the call and then fill in that information after. Ask the customer if they are currently married or single. If the customer is married, ask for the spelling of the spouse's first and last name and fill out their information as well. If the customer does not wish to share the spouse's information, we cannot provide them with this service. If the customer's spouse is incarcerated, in a different country, or residing in a nursing home, select Separated. Ask the customer if their license is currently active or suspended. If the customer does not have a license, we are unable to provide them with this service. If the customer's license is expired, put down Restricted. If the customer does not have a license, however their spouse does, put the spouse's information up top. By doing this, you can still submit the lead. Ask the customer if they've had any tickets, accidents, DUIs, or claims since 2011. If they have had an incident, narrow the information down further. For example, if the customer says they've had a ticket in 2011, ask which season it happened and what the ticket was for. If they've had an accident or a claim but do not know the amount the insurance had to pay out, leave it as the default $5,000. Only put down information if the person you've been talking to on the phone call has had the ticket, accident, DUI, or claim within the past 3 years. All other drivers on the policy would be discussed with the insurance companies when they call. If the customer has had more than 2 tickets, accidents, DUIs, or claims, inform them that when the insurance companies call, they will discuss the rest of that information with them. Ask the customer on a scale of 1 to 10 if they could rate their level of interest on receiving an auto insurance quote, 1 being low interest and 10 being high interest, what number they would select. If the customer gives a 0, ask them if it's okay if you put down a 1, expressing they have the lowest level of interest in the process. If they say yes, continue on to the wrap-up. If they say no, end the call politely.